Hi, and welcome to today's Next Normal show on this sunny, beautiful summer day. And we talk about something that is actually very useful on such a day. It's about outdoor gear, outdoor fashion, outdoor equipment retail. And my special guest is Greg. Greg will do a quick intro in a second. I can only say I love this topic. I love to do sports. I love to be outside for sports and do anything there, from cycling to running to swimming to stand-up paddling, whatever, skiing, ski tours, snowboarding. And it's always related to equipment. So you always need some kind of equipment for what you do. And it's always something because of your size, of your weight, of your training style, where you need some kind of education and some kind of service. And I always loved to interact with people and to talk with people about that in any channels. And I think we will have a great discussion today on that topic. So Greg, welcome to the show. And I hand over to you to give a quick intro for the crowd. To whom am I talking today?
Great. Thank you, Joseph, and thanks you for having me on the show. Hello, everyone. I think the outdoor is my passion, and I think both professionally and personally, I have a very strong belief that people are happier when they spend time outdoors, and that life is made to be enjoyed and to take on adventures alone, together, and it's where we find contact with our inner selves, with our friends, with our family. And it provides incredible experiences that are life enriching, but also stimulate health, well-being, etc. So this is my purpose in life, is that it's all about helping people be active outdoors. And I love your background, Joseph. So my kind of, professionally, I've been in the outdoor industry for over a decade. I was a CEO of Bever, which is the leading Dutch outdoor retailer, from 2011 to 15. When I arrived, everyone said, there's no need to go online. We don't need a web shop. But of course, the digital transformation journey was quite intense. And we ended up winning lots of awards, being the best omnichannel retailer. So it was a great journey, bringing on board lots of people with me, becoming more digital. After that, I was in the UK, as CEO of Cotswold Outdoor, Snow and Rock, and Runner's Need. And more recently, I have been involved in the transaction, the acquisition of Mammut, of which I am now the Swiss-based Mammut, of which I'm now the chairman. So yeah, kind of heavily invested into the outdoor sector professionally, but also very much personally, as I'm a mountaineer. I've climbed lots of mountains in the Alps and the Himalayas. I'm a ski mountaineer. I'm an ultra runner. In fact, in a few weeks' time, I'm preparing for a big race. So yeah, so it's kind of it's all in my genes, professionally and personally.
Great. And you already mentioned a few buzzwords. I think the one is the omnichannel part, and to go into the Mammut example. So I have a Mammut sleeping bag, and as a mountaineer, and I spent some time in the German military. Sleeping bags are pretty important if you hike and if you sleep outdoors, and if you want to have warm feet and be protected. And depending on your height and depending on what you want to pack, depending on which temperature you're in, it can be there are big variations in the product. And I went to a physical store and got somebody who actually does a lot of hiking and that I know does a lot of hiking, a kind of a local scene, so to say. And he gave me guidance on which product to buy. So I didn't go online for the product. But of course, depending on the parameters and what you're looking for, so I think it's very much on parameters. If I want to buy a T-shirt, I just need to know my size. I need maybe to know if I have big arms or small arms, if I have a bigger belly. So I have a certain understanding of the designer. But it's more basic on the information. On sporting goods, it's pretty complex, or to bring in all the parameters that you could have on a specific product.
Yes, I mean, I think here the view is, when I became CEO of Bever, I think for many reasons that you're explaining now, people told me, well, we don't need a website because people are always coming to our stores to buy their footwear or their jackets because they want to, it's a Gore-Tex jacket, it's worth 400 euros. So people want to make sure it fits, feel it, there's a trust factor. But of course, we know now today that this is not the case, and people are willing to buy anything online. In fact, in the US, there are lots of people buying a house online. So without even seeing a house, they do a tour, and they buy a house. So if you can buy a house online, you can buy pretty much everything online, right? Including a sleeping bag. That's my view. I think that when you think about the omnichannel journey, the store has an important place, but the transaction can be very successful without the store. But I think in many cases where the product is bought and where the research is done is not the same. And where the research is done, of course, all the service you mentioned earlier, a lot of that can be done online, because you can now have a video call with a Mammut colleague, and they can explain to you all the features of the sleeping bag. And you may not be able to touch it and feel it and lie in it virtually yet. I think that's a step that we have to take, and the industry has to take, to really see the fit kind of virtually in a live and real way. But there's of course many features online that you can get that you won't get in the store. For example, customer reviews. They'll tell you how is the fit, does the zipper work well, what kind of water bottle flask might fit in the pocket inside the sleeping bag. I mean, all these small details that will be much harder to find in the store, you will be able to find that information online. So I think that as a customer and as a business owner, you need to be aware of kind of what is important in the customer journey and how do you play this to your advantage.
And is it something specific? Because, the parameters for a product are more complex. And when we talk about the levels of retail, and we saw that with Adidas and Nike, cutting out the, let's say, the retail chains and going more direct, I think it's very much about controlling the parameters and controlling the information. So is it also something that's, more difficult if you're a small outdoor retail reseller for in a city like Freiburg? What's your added value that you can actually give? Is it offering rental or whatever? Because you don't own the parameters for your Moncler jackets and for your Mammut jackets. You don't own that. You have something on stock, but the parameters are mostly with the company. So how do you see that changing? Or it already changed, but how do you see that developing when we talk about the bricks and mortar experience versus the brands having a direct customer relationship?
It's a very good question, and also very relevant for me, because my career in the last 10 years has been in omnichannel multi-brand retailers like Snow and Rock and Cotswold and Bever, comparable to Globetrotter and Transa in Germany and Switzerland. And I think that if you go back 20 or 30 years, probably the main reason to visit a store was proximity. Yeah, there was a store in your village, and that was the reason why you went to that store, because it was close by and convenient, and of course you didn't really bother to travel very far to go. But of course now this reason is by no means sufficient. And one of the reasons I wanted to move away from multi-brand retail to a brand like Mammut is that then you have control of the supply chain, and you have your own products, and you have it verticalized, and you can make a much bigger impact. You have more room to play with on the margin side. But of course, it also adds lots of complexities. But I think in the end, you have to have a point of difference. And when you are a multi-brand retailer, if the products you are selling, unless you have a superior private label offering, in fact, you are offering a lot of products that a lot of the same competitors will be offering at similar prices, maybe even lower prices at Amazon and others. So you have to have a point of difference. That point of difference may be that you are close to, that you're in a resort like Zermatt, where there's so many tourists and people that actually, you don't have to have great service, and you just have the location and the products and you get away with it. But in many cases, the location won't be enough, and you have to have a superior service. And that starts just with having very friendly, very knowledgeable people in store. I mean, I think that goes a long way, and it's still something that many retailers don't have consistently. And if you do those basics really well, you're already super well placed. And then you can think of other products like rental, like you say. I mean, there's lots of different things you can do. And you can also start to offer a lot of those services online. So, also the service of the people in the store can be brought to online. And many people have done this during the COVID pandemic when the stores were closed, is how to capitalize on the experience and expertise of the people in the store to offer a great experience to the customer.
Yeah. I think maybe one thing to come back, because I think that's something in the past I always wanted to own my stuff. So my touring skis, wanted to own the skis. My bike, wanted to own the bike. But now with the kids, we started to come into the rental universe, and especially with skis, because they're growing and their driving is changing year by year, and let's say, the older one already wants a fun ski that she can drive flawless backwards. That's something where I picked up and said, maybe I also rent a ski. So I also rented some racing skis, because I don't have racing skis. I only have my tour skis. And when the snow was hard, I wanted to have a race ski. So instead of buying one, I rented one. And of course, I rented it locally. But I think that's also something that you could apply, because stand-up paddling, mountain biking, maybe not, but in some instances, bikes are rented. I mean, when you go to Switzerland for a certain tour, not a hard trip, you also rent. But is that something that is sharing? Because that could be an upsell. Is that something where there is a last possibility of differentiation? Is to say we are a point of service, and then we have a multi-brand approach, because we offer something where people actually have to come to get it, because that's something that would be difficult if you look at a Cube store selling bikes, and he can only sell bikes, he cannot sell skis. So that could be something all year round, because there are different sporting, let's say, or outdoor possibilities throughout the year.
Yeah, I mean, totally. Of course, the sharing economy or the rental economy is booming, and companies like Airbnb and Netflix and who have no assets have been extremely successful. And I think in many ways it will apply to the other industry, where some assets are very specific, specialists, or used maybe only once or twice a year. So it makes a huge amount of sense to offer rental services. To be honest, I think that I think it's a great opportunity. I have not seen many great offerings. I mean, I'm sure they are around on a local basis, but not really, globalized, or even kind of within Europe, really sizable. But I think it's a really good opportunity. What's really key, obviously, is the supply chain. Is that there's very quick turnarounds. It's typically, if you think about skis, it all happens basically in 2-3 weeks of the year. That's when most of the money is made. So you have to be extremely efficient. Of course, then you have a longer ski season, but typically, the peaks around February are huge. So you need to nail it. And then if you don't have an amazing back office, then it's difficult to make it work. And saying for stand-up paddling is that it's like 2 months of the year, lots of activity, and the rest of the year a lot less.
Yeah, and I think we talk about in skis and and or snowboard or changing. I mean, the part is in the past you didn't have the variety on options as well as there are now. Even when I look at stand-up paddling, like 5 years ago, there was maybe 2 types of stand-up paddles, but now you have all kinds of different types. Maybe similar with surfing. When I started surfing with my father when I was like 6 or 7, there were only a certain type of board, and you had this big fins down. So there was one, and then when I was like 15, you had sinkers, you had all kinds of different boards in the market. So there was a huge push out there. But also surfboards is something where rental, if you go to a Robinson club or whatever, you usually rent. I think that's an interesting thing, because like you said, it came up to me because I didn't experience something very well done in the market yet on a broader scale. Only some local solutions, especially for skis, but not for a whole portfolio. But let's come back maybe to the brand view. And I'm a big fan of Montclair, and I actually really like the service they provided on a customer view, to say you have flagship stores where you get a personal guidance, but not in a fashion sense, but also on the performance side. And on the other hand, you also have an online store and a good understanding what kind of sizes you need and what kind of things you must have. When you look at the Grenoble series, that's really high tech stuff, and I still understand what are the features. So they're pretty good putting out the features that I'm searching for in the product. Do you think, what is the best way, or what would be your thing where you say, hey, look at this is a great example how things are done? When I think parameters with sporting, like we said, with the sleeping bag, but also with the skiing trousers, where do I have my beeper? So where do I have my avalanche beeper in the trousers? Which position? And there's so many. How is it with the legs? How do I get it over the shoes and fit it? So there's so many questions in the product, which I found, for example, Montclair answers very nicely, also online. But how do you perceive that? Is it video? Is it personal chat? Or what do you expect that to look like?
Yes, I mean, yeah, that's another great question. I think, first of all, I would advise not to wear to carry. Oh, I'm hearing a big echo here. Is it just me?
Yeah, it's you.
Okay. So on the avalanche beacon, I would not wear it in your trousers, but always wear it on your body directly. That's because of course the avalanche has the power to rip off any clothes or etc. So as close to the body as possible. We step that aside. I think that it depends very much, of course, on who you are as a brand. I mean, Montclair, for example, is very different than Mammut, where Montclair has a high fashion element and Mammut has a much stronger performance element in it and technical. And there are a wide range of service options from stores. And to be honest, I still think that despite Nike and Adidas moving away from wholesale, that is still a very important channel. Also because typically some of these players offer very high standards of service, where as a customer you can compare a brand with other brands, which I think is really important when you're making a choice, that you sometimes can look across different brands. So that is one. Then of course you have your own stores, and I think online. I think the way kind of I see the future is that, of course, you have loads of information videos that give a lot of generic information, that you can chat with a customer, that you can have a video call with someone in the store, and reviews, of course. But then I think at some point it would be marvelous to build up a community where you can have people say, look, I bought this product to go climb Everest or Mount McKinley, and I have someone else who's done it, and they're able to speak with each other, and you connect, and you create like a more of a real feeling around the products, and because in the end, what companies like Mammoet sell is not only a product. In the end, they're selling a dream, an experience, and the product helps them achieve that dream. So the more you can get closer to the dream and the experience, the more you are helping your customer, and I think also the more meaningful you are as a brand to your customers.
I think that's the social aspect, and also this peer group. And I remember back in the days with skateboarding, when you're in the half pipe, which protectors did you buy? You bought the protectors or the helmet that the best skater, half pipe skater in town also were, of course, because that was your peer group, because we didn't have the social part. But I certainly completely chime in. I just had experience looking for equipment for endless pools, and of course you need to find a peer group who is specific on that, and that's where you get tons of information and advice and how to best utilize your equipment. So that's for sure good. Maybe jumping back, and I think I like that when I was at Salesforce conference, I think it was 2012, maybe 2013. No, it must be a little bit later, maybe 2014. On shoes, like the Swiss brand with on clouds, on shoes, was very new. And at the Salesforce conference, they were brought in as a trailblazer. Salesforce has these different levels, because originally On Shoes was designed to do direct B2C business. They didn't use resellers. They more or less went only online and did a very strong community base, runner base. And interestingly they changed. When I look to the US, they changed very much their sales system. And also, like you said, resellers are not dead, or department stores are not dead. They changed their system also to heavily include resellers. So that's, I think, is very interesting for a young brand who originally had only a B2C approach.
Yes, I mean, I think that all models are possible, and there are lots of examples today of brands that are in the outdoor space that are online only and D2C only, and that are very successful. Canyon, I would say, is probably the prime example of a brand that's on a product that is extremely technical, has succeeded in creating a fantastic customer base, a fantastic brand, and also fantastic financial results. There are also brands that still have a very small share of D2C, and I would say an example, for example, is Rab. It's a British clothing brand, and they still have 95% of their sales is B2B, and there's a whole range in the middle, from Nike to Mammut to Moncler, any other brand. But I think there again, it's also the question of who you are as a brand, and what your strategy is and how you see yourself 5 or 10 years from now. But I think that for a brand as Mammut, continuing to work very closely with B2B partners who offer a superior customer experience and service is super important. And that's also something that builds the brand, and also helps to grow the D2C business. But I don't think that we will ever turn our backs on our B2B partners.
Yeah, I think that's and this is interesting. I think on being already established and having a certain history and being in the channels, because during COVID, at least that was what my understanding was, when I looked at, let's say, the running market, you had a lot of new brands popping up. I'm personally a customer of Soar Running in the UK, which is a pure running base with nice products if you do very long distance, or has very nice details. but they are only in a sense B2C. They were, I think, on some platforms. They used to be on Mr. Porter, but mostly focused on online. What do you think about those new brands coming up in very small niches? And I had the feeling that they all soared in a sense during COVID, as a lot of outdoor sports, a lot of things got used. We even had a fantastic winter. So we had a crazy winter season, and my usual tours in the Black Forest, where I'm all alone. I mean, when I start very early, I'm still alone, but when I came down, the parking spaces were full. I was like astonished. It was like the whole city was up on the hills. So it was crazy that during the pandemic, you had so much more outdoor sport usages. And I think that was also an effect on the brands or the economics of certain brands. Do you think that's sustainable, or what is your expectancy there for the small brands and for the big brands?
Yeah, I think obviously, COVID has changed the world in many ways. I think some of those trends, if we take out two, is number one is digital versus physical. I think there we already see that there is some sort of migration back to the stores, but more focused on, I would say, stores that are easily accessible by car. So city center stores typically are still much more challenged because of people are not so keen to go into city centers, although that again is starting to change as well. But retail parks and destination locations typically are doing very well, and lower visitor numbers but higher conversion, so more targeted visits. So I think there will be a rebalancing. But of course, we will not go back to the levels of stores that the stores were at before the pandemic. So I think some of the, I would say, D2C only brands that are very young might, have a fallback from this effect. But I think the other effect is that the outdoor sector has grown incredibly quickly because people, when you're not allowed to do much, the outdoor space again is a safe haven where there's lots of space. Social distancing is not an issue. And it's actually a super gratifying experience, which so many people have learned. And although now, even for myself, I've found it's more difficult now to go out every weekend because there's just more things competing with your time that you actually maybe enjoy less. So in a way, the liberty is great, but it was nice and simple, the life during COVID. For me, but so I think that effect will continue. That the outdoor, I think that boost is here to stay, and people have learned these incredible experiences, and I think they will try to keep it going.
Yeah, which is perfect, because the closer you're to nature, the more you can respect your environments, and you have the pure beauty of where we live on planet Earth. So would be great to keep that up and keep that in everybody's minds. And hopefully with the investments they did, they will continue to use it and be careful and not need ski slopes in the sense, I mean, we all like ski slopes, but in the end, it's also nice to have the physical appreciation of the mountain, and walking up is a very, very challenging but very rewarding, like hiking also up or climbing up.
I totally agree. Yeah. It's been a long time since I've used a ski lift, I can tell you.
Me too. And actually, it's funny when you look at some industry parts, and especially on skiing. The last time I was at a slope in Austria, a few years back, all the people I went with, they put on heavy protective gear. I mean, when I do my tours, I don't need protective gear in general. Yes, if I do something very crazy, I wear a back protector, but I don't wear complete exoskeletons. And I was, hey guys, what are you doing? And okay, it's very dangerous to be on the slope, so we want to be protected, which kept me astonished. But actually, it is, or at least in that time, it was very dangerous on the slope. So I rather walk outside. It's less dangerous. But Greg, we already spent our time, so we are already at 30 minutes. Like I expected, there's so much to talk about there. So I quickly ask maybe if somebody from the audience has any specific questions to us on this sunny day. Then we're happy to answer. Type them in. And if there are no questions, I think Greg and I, we're both happy if you later watch the video and put it in the comments. Highly appreciated. Yeah, it seems nothing is popping up. So I think we wrap it up and enjoy the rest of the day. It was a pleasure having you. And thank you very much for your valuable time and for the insights on this industry.
Thank you, Josef. It was great to see you. Thank you, everyone, for joining. And even seeing your background, Josef, it makes me happy. Even though the mountains are far away from where I am, I get this little feeling of, okay, they are not so far, and that fills my heart with joy. So thank you for that.
You will be in Zurich soon, and then you have a lot of mountains all around you.
Next week, actually. So yes. Very
good. Yeah, it's mountains is kind of addictive in a sense, at least what I feel when I go. Yes, I can go running down like in the valley here in Freiburg, but it's completely different. Every few weeks I need to run up a hill, otherwise I get frustrated. It's just it's a different feeling. Okay, thanks a lot. Have a good time and see you soon.
Okay, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Josef. Bye.